Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I am going to be talking about what annoys Leo, and this applies and pertains to the Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Anyway, people, first thing off is one thing I think that strongly annoys Leo are people that are overly introverted and introspective. They certainly generally may not get along too well with the zodiac sign Cancer. It's funny, I had a funny uproarious moment one time with a Leo friend, Leo Sun and Ascendant, and he asked me one time, well, why am I so introverted? And I was going, I didn't want to get into a 2-hour elaborate dissertation about explaining that my sun sign is Cancer, I have a Cancer stellium, I have a preponderance of planets below the horizon, etc. But I just got a kick out of that. Leo doesn't seem to understand what Cancer is really about, and vice versa. But anyway, another thing is Leo can sometimes, I think, become strongly annoyed with people that are overly reticent and humble. I think Leo's motto, I see Leo's motto perhaps being, if you got it, flaunt it. I had a Sun and Leo friend that had said that to me one time, and Leo may not get along too well with self-effacing Virgo for this reason. Now, as far as because they may not really understand people that are overly reticent and humble. Now, Leo also may be strongly averse to being shown up by another person. This may strongly annoy Leo and exasperate them big time. I see pride and ego as being middle names for Leo, and those are characteristics, of course, I think very synonymous with the zodiac sign. NFL quarterback Tom Brady is a Leo sun. Now, many of you may that follow the NFL understand and know more often than not, when Tom Brady's team loses to another team, the next time they play them, him and his team generally win. It's about seeking retribution and pride after being hurt. I can remember Tom Brady saying, I don't remember his exact words, but something to the effect after he lost to a certain team, he says, I want to get those guys again. And in other words, get another crack at playing them. And sure enough, they defeated him. I think it was the Pittsburgh Steelers, actually, he was referring to. But anyway, now, this also, it makes me wonder how NBA legend Leo Sun Magic Johnson felt when he and his Lakers lost to Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls in the 1991 NBA Finals. I felt like, Magic Johnson, I'm sure, felt very demoralized by that, especially having Leo prominent in his chart. Now, Leos also, I see them as getting annoyed and being averse to blending in a group as opposed to shining and standing out. I think a lot of this is attributed to the fact that Aquarius, being the opposite sign of Leo, can play a role in this. Leos really are, I think they could become annoyed with people that are overly eccentric, radical, or even bizarre, and the nonconformists. Don't get me wrong, Leo can, of course, be very creative, and there's certain, but at the same time, on average, I see Leo as being a lot more conservative than the zodiac sign Aquarius. Now, you look at Aquarius, they often will revolve around others' activities, but Leo can be the antithesis of this, and they simply may want others to revolve around them. Now, I think too, also, when you look at this, there's certainly more, Leo can be a lot more egocentric than Aquarius. I think what may annoy and exasperate Leo as well are people that really, that express their strong emotions outwardly, especially perhaps crying. Zodiac sign Cancer often falls on the 12th house cusp in a solar or natal chart for Leo. So, Leo may somewhat prefer to lick those wounds, so to speak, in solitude, in seclusion, as opposed to expressing them more outwardly. If their pride is hurt, they may often brood privately, but maybe they perhaps refrain and are inhibited in showing that emotion outwardly in fear of perhaps appearing vulnerable or being hurt to others. So, anyway, another thing is, that may annoy Leo. I think people that have low vitality and stamina. Leo's energy can be nearly indefatigable and inexorable. And I think this is what I think that's something that could bother Leo when people don't have the energy level to keep up with them. I mean, Cancer, of course, going back to Cancer, often falling on the 12th house cusp in a solar natal chart for Leo. Cancer is not exactly known for robust constitution, and their energy level generally isn't abundant. And another thing is, keep in mind, Pisces is a sign that is in conjunct by sign to Leo, and Pisces is another sign that generally, on average, is more in terms of their weak constitution, but in also having generally a lower than average energy level and stamina. I mean, and so obviously in a relationship situation with Leo, there would have to be likely in adjustment, since they are in conjunct by sign to each other. Now, also, another thing that may really agitate and annoy Leo is when others, I think, try to take advantage of their magnanimous and generous nature. I mean, I understand Leo's a fixed sign. They could be very domineering. They're not always the easiest people to be around, but they can be generous to a fault. And you look at this. Going again to the zodiac sign Cancer, often falling on the 12th house cusp in a solar or natal chart for Leo. Sometimes family members can almost be like that hidden adversary, because often Leo can be the one that's more affluent. I mean, Leo than the other family members, because Leo is generally a fortunate sign, and they are ones that might often be the most successful in a family, especially if their family is not large. Of course, there is a greater chance of this happening. And I think what happens is you have family members often trying to exploit Leo's, maybe their weakness for being extravagant and generous as far as their money may go. So anyway, another thing is that really a thing that may annoy Leo is really having to perhaps admit or acknowledge that they can't accomplish certain things by themselves. I mean, remember, Aquarius is their opposite sign. Aquarius energy is more about collaborating with others and friends and acquaintances, perhaps to accomplish tasks. And really, in Leo, I think, may often want to do things on their own. They're not really as self-reliant, I don't think, as, say, Aries. But the thing about Leo is, because of pride, there's certain things that I think they would like to be able to say, well, I did this on my own. I didn't need any help or assistance. So anyway, and also I think another thing that could really annoy and agitate Leo are people that can be overly frugal and parsimonious, perhaps, and cheap as far as money goes, because Leo is just really the opposite and antithesis of this, being rather more extravagant and generous with their funds. I mean, Leo often, I don't see them getting along too well with Virgo for that reason. And even keep in mind that Taurus is square to Leo by sign, and of course Taurus obviously can be very assiduous and prudent as far as things of a monetary nature goes. And the thing about Leo too, I think another thing that might really annoy and exasperate and agitate Leo are perhaps people that are just overly secretive about things and wanting to be super private. Leo is often more boastful, and they'll often let the cat out of the bag, so to speak, no pun intended, which is why part of the reason they're not really, I mean, they're not compatible by, they actually are not compatible by sign as far as Scorpio goes. As many of you know, Scorpio is, of course, square Leo by sign. Scorpio really is about keeping things very private. They're often very secretive, and they don't want their secrets really unveiled or revealed to others. And Leo might talk about things not in a way to necessarily let these cats out of the bag, so to speak, but they do it maybe indiscriminately, maybe in a way that when they're boasting about maybe a significant other or what have you. And the reality is maybe say an example with the Scorpio significant other may not necessarily want Leo to be talking as much about those things, even if they are of a positive nature of that person. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for What Annoys Leo. And stay tuned next time where I will be talking about what annoys Virgo. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person astrologically speaking based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.